Have you seen that Jurassic World series on Netflix?
Yeah, Cretaceous. Yeah,
yeah, Camp Cretaceous. Have you seen all of it, or have you just like?
I've seen the first season. I haven't seen the second season. Yeah.
So we just got done with the first series, the 5 seasons of, because they came out with the sequel series.
Yeah, the sequel series.
It came out very recently,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a good show. It's a kid's show, but it's also really dark.
Oh, I love it. I love it. You know what? Take that back. I did see the second season. I'm sorry.
I mean, people are getting eaten.
Mm-hmm.
Dinosaurs are getting eaten, attacked. There's
Manipulative
a lot of violence.
adults.
Manipulative. Almost every adult character they meet in the show has
their own plot. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what I thought was cool was they made it coincide with the new Jurassic World movies.
Mm-hmm.
So there's moments in the show where they recreate some of the scenes from the movies, or like plot points will kind of come up. And see, the last season of Camp Cretaceous, I suppose it was just before the second movie started.
Yep.
But it kind of introduced like plot points that would show up in that third movie, because the Dachshund was involved in the final season, and you know they were talking about the controlling dinosaurs and stuff like that, which I think, if I remember, it might have been a plot point in the Dominion.
It was.
I don't really remember Dominion too much because I only saw it the one time, and I was just kind of
I'm sorry. That was actually a plot point in the first one, the first Jurassic World, when they were trying to control the dinosaurs. Remember, old dude?
Okay, well, they were, but in the show, there was another company that had developed these brain chips, and they would chip dinosaurs, and they would be able to control them like an actual video game.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
But you know, they were using it for nefarious things, and
I'm gonna have to watch that.
And one of the kids, his dad is like an investor for Jurassic World. He's a rich dude. Well, his dad turns out to be one of the villains, because when Jurassic World went down, he went to the rival company, and then he started funding like the brain chips and all this other like shady stuff they found out later on. But anyway, that series ends. There's a new series out called Chaos Theory, and it's set 6 years later.
Yep.
So now in the new show, again, following the Jurassic World stuff, dinosaurs are out in the world, and then I guess someone's going after the original kids that were on the island, because they made it back off the island, right?
They made it all out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So someone's going after them, and one of them may or may not be around anymore, it seems. That's just like off the top. Like, it's not really a spoiler. That's like first 2 seconds of the show, and they kind of tell you what's going on. So far it's pretty good. We only watched the first episode last night, but it's a good show. It's a good show.
It's always been good.
Yeah.
Always been good.
Good show, good production, and I like that it coincides with the Jurassic World stuff. And I don't know if it's gonna keep going into the new Jurassic Park or World movie kind of in the production right now. But
well, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna go into the new ones, but I thought these Camp Cretaceous was better than the movies. I thought they were way better than the movies. I thought the first Jurassic World was great. I think the last two was just the second one it's a guilty pleasure of mine, but that third one is just unwatchable.
Well, I saw someone make the comment that the second movie had really good cinematography.
Yeah, definitely had that, for sure.
You know, they said the story is not very great, but this movie will probably age better than the other two, because the cinematography and the way it was shot was so well done. But you're right, the first Jurassic World was great because it brought everything full circle. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, they had to make a sequel, and then it's kind of like they didn't know where to go with the sequel, so they kind of continued like the cloning plot a little bit. And then they almost had something with introducing the dinosaurs getting out amongst the people off the islands, and you know, then now they're in the cities and where everybody else is. They didn't do anything with that plot.
Never did.
The third movie, they just did a bigger Jurassic Park. You know, they were like, oh, we rounded them up and we put them on this island. And then the end of that movie, they were like, what? Oh, the dinosaurs learned how to live with the people. No, they wouldn't. That would throw out the whole ecosystem. Remember the big grasshoppers at the beginning of that movie?
Yeah.
I thought that was going to be a result of the dinosaurs being back. I thought that was gonna like force an evolution thing.
That's what we all thought
with the animal life, and like that's a result. It's like, oh, the bugs are getting bigger because now you have these bigger things in the thing. But no, it turns out they were also clones.
Well, the thing about it is they tried to incorporate too much of a story. They didn't have a story.
Right.
It was, I thought when we saw Alan Grant, when we saw all these different characters, Ian Malcolm, Jeff Goldblum, when we saw these characters again, they were going to be incorporated seamlessly into the movie, and it wasn't. They just throw it into the movie, and they had to use a plot device to round up everybody together.
Yeah.
From new school and old school, which is always bad.
Well, it's the legacy sequel thing. That's what we're seeing a lot nowadays. Like, you got it with the Ghostbusters, you got it with the Jurassic World. You got it
with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But Spider-Man was able to pull it off. That's what I was saying. That's why I told you before. That was a ballsy move what Disney pulled off.
Yeah.
Because not a lot of movies can get away with that.
Yeah.
Pulling off, bringing back two legacy characters.
Yeah.
Well, 3 if you call it Jonah Jameson. So, like, in order for him to pull that off, you have to have a good story there.
Right.
And it just so happened with the Tom Holland stuff, while you might not have been the biggest Spider-Man Tom Holland fan, that story with him actually blended right perfectly with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield.
Right.
With Jurassic Worlds and even Ghostbusters, none of those stories have ever seamlessly came together the right way.
But it's funny because they could have made it work better with the Jurassic World characters.
Oh, it was all there.
Yeah.
It was all there.
They made some decisions. So hopefully the next movie will be better.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll be a little bit more interesting. I'm sure they're gonna stick with the dinosaurs. I keep saying out in the real world, but like they're out with the people. Hopefully they stick with that plot because that's an interesting plot point. And I would like to actually see that more explored off an island out in Costa Rica somewhere. Like, just set it in a city, and then you have Tyrannosaurs trying to make a nest somewhere, and people have to figure out how to move the Tyrannosaurs or whatever. Like just show us how people are having to adapt to living with these things. Is it apocalyptic? Who's in the top of the food train? You know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting that you bring up Jurassic World because Glenn Powell, the actor that was in Top Gun, and he was in a whole bunch of. He's in the new Twister movie too as well.
Yeah,
he turned down the role for Jurassic World.
I saw that
because he said the script didn't really fit him.
Yeah, he said the script wasn't really like fitting of him or whatever. He said it in a weird way, and people are thinking it's a bad script, but I think it's just a weird way that he said it.
Yeah, it's just probably a weird way. He said the script is good.
Yeah, he's also a part of Jurassic World already because he voices the camp counselor at the beginning of the show.
Didn't know that. That's crazy. Yeah, didn't know that.
So he's already been involved with it before.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. So he was in the first season, or he was the camp guy, right?
Yeah, he was one of the camp counselors. Dave.
Oh, okay, camp counselor. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. I wish he was in Jurassic World with allegedly Scarlett Johansson because I think it was confirmed that she's in there, but they haven't put out anything else. What I don't want them to do is rush this film because it's supposed to come out next year, allegedly.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm like, why are you rushing this film? Like, why are you rushing this film? Like, we have heard nothing about this film. Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
That is so odd to me that you would rush a film without even without even knowing the script of it or having actors, just one actor. Like, that's crazy.
I think they have like 6 or so people cast
already.
Yeah.
I've never. If so, it must be of no names. They must be of a no name.
For the most part, I think they are going with like non-named people,
which is fine. I can do that.
Well, it's good, right? Because you give more people a chance at acting, and also you pay less money, so your budget can actually go towards making the movie and not paying the actors. Because
seemingly you would have Scarlett Johansson making the most money off that show. I mean, off the movie.
Of course,
she's the big star.
Yeah.
So that's I can deal with that. I can deal with that.
There's not a lot of information out there.
There's not a lot of information for a movie that's supposed to come out next year. Like there's no way in hell that movie's coming out next year. That's going to be delayed. I know the director of Rogue One. He's the director of the new Jurassic World, which cinematography wise, I'm going to love because he also did Creator, which that was on a budget.
Yeah,
and that was like $60 million, and you would never even known that watching that film. The movie wasn't that good, but cinematography wise was good. Visually, enjoyed it. But yeah, it's not a lot of information you're gonna find.
There's really not. Like the last article I'm seeing is from like January 22nd.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know how. I mean, unless they've already been working on it and then they're just now releasing information about it, because they could pull that off as well.
Could. I mean, probably by next week you probably might hear something. Who knows?
You know, we could get a full trailer out of nowhere one day, and it's just like, oh, they've actually been developing this, and
it won't be this year. I can tell you that doggone much.
Yeah. Not every movie has to tell the world exactly what they're doing every day on set.
No, of course not.
So you never know. It could be further in development than we think.
Hopefully.
You want to talk about the Beetlejuice trailer?
Yep.
All right. What did you think of the Beetlejuice trailer, James?
I liked it. I liked it a lot.
I did. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I liked the first movie was really, really good. Had Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis. Didn't get a lot of Beetlejuice in the first one. Mm-hmm. It was more of like a plot discussion, but he really didn't show up that much.
Right. I mean, he's a villain, right?
Yeah. So they really didn't use him correctly, but the scenes that he was actually in that movie, he ate up all the scenes in that movie. Mm-hmm. In the trailer, in this one, it doesn't look like his energy is there all the way. So I don't want to judge off the first pitch of this trailer, but it doesn't seem like the same energy that I'm seeing from the first one.
I mean, Michael Keaton's also a 70-year-old man.
True, and I also don't like the makeup in this one. It looks something looks off. I don't know, something looks off in this one more than I'm used to. But I do like Winona Ryder's back. She hasn't aged a bit. Catherine O'Hara looks like she hasn't aged a bit. Jenny Ortega, she looks like the usual Jenny Ortega.
Same, yeah,
like she was in Wednesday. I like to see Willem Dafoe. He's in there.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, I thought that's pretty cool.
I like the idea of it looks like they're going into the afterlife in this one.
More in the afterlife.
Like, for whatever reason, Winona Ryder and Beetlejuice might have to work together. And it kind of reminds me of the cartoon show.
Yeah, animated series.
Because it was about them doing like wacky adventure stuff. So this kind of seems like it's a wacky adventure type movie with Beetlejuice. A part of me feels like maybe they shouldn't have brought back Michael Keaton. Because when Beetlejuice spoke, I thought, Will Arnett would have made a good Beetlejuice.
Good have.
And yeah, that's just my opinion on that. That's just my observation. I think, they could have just done a Will Arnett. Because, I mean, Beetlejuice, in theory, should be an ageless being. Yeah. Right? And, you're talking about Michael Keaton doesn't seem like he has the same amount of energy. Well, if you wanted a younger... I mean, I know, like, Will Arnett, like, 40s or 50s or something, probably?
I think so.
I mean, he's not too much younger, but he's still younger than what Michael Keaton is.
Yeah.
So...
I mean, I think that when you do these movies, it's going to be a level of nostalgia. I don't know if people are getting tired of... people are getting tired of nostalgia, obviously. But I think they'll let it make it if it's just blended in perfectly.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see.
It's a touch of nostalgia, but it's also... People have been wanting a sequel to Beetlejuice
for years.
For a long time. Like, they were going to make a sequel. They were going to make a Beetlejuice sequel called Beetlejuice Goes to Hawaii.
Yeah.
That was there was a whole script for it. Mm-hmm. They were about to shoot it, and they just never did it, right? So people actually did want this. It's not like, we're doing a sequel to Twisters. Yeah. Although, again, Twisters is a legacy sequel. Talking about nostalgia, but you're excited for that movie.
I'm excited for it just for some fact it's something different.
Yeah.
It's not something different.
It's something different, but it's a disaster film.
It's a callback to an unusual time in cinema where we had like disaster movies.
Yeah.
So Beetlejuice looks like a pretty good movie. Yeah. I'm excited to watch it. I have no gripes on it right now, but I definitely can't wait to dive into it.
It looks like it's gonna be pretty fun. Mm-hmm. And what was the other movie you wanted to talk about? The review.
Beverly Hills Cop.
So I thought this movie came out, James.
No.
I thought this movie's been out.
Not even a little bit.
I thought it was already on Netflix. Like, they've been talking about it forever. What's the deal with the movie? I didn't see the trailer, but you tell me about it.
Eddie Murphy looks like somebody looks old. Eddie Murphy looks like in his 60s or 50s Well, 50. I know he's in his 60s for sure. And it looks like not good. If I'm just keeping it real, the trailer does not look good.
Well, that's been a big talking point, is that it doesn't look good.
No,
it doesn't seem. Or a lot of people just said it wasn't good, so I assumed it already came out. Honestly, that's where I thought.
Will it be better than the third one? I'm probably assuming so. It would, because the third one was absolutely horrible. Because the third one he fights crime in an amusement park. So in a fake Disneyland. Okay. So if it can beat that, hey, he's done something good. But no, I don't think this movie will be good at all. And I think Eddie Murphy he's had 2 movies now that has been totally horrible on streaming.
I kind of feel like Eddie Murphy's lost steam.
Oh, he's lost a lot of steps. Over
the last few years. I just think that the Eddie Murphy time is past.
He had it when Napoleon Dynamite Is My Name was the last movie he did where I was like, God, Eddie still got it. Mm-hmm. And then he did Coming to America 2, and he did that other movie. What's the movie called? Blackish or something like that. You People. Yeah. 2 criminally horrible movies.
Yeah.
And I really, really hope this movie's not one of them. If it could just be better than the third one, I'll take. You got Joseph Gordon-Levitt in here.
I just saw that, yeah.
Kevin Bacon is in here. So hopefully it can be better than that. Hopefully it can rival the Bad Boys trilogy. Or the new Bad Boys, which it probably won't.
I don't think it is.
Because
for one, this is a Netflix release.
Yeah,
I don't think it's getting theatrical.
And well, we know Netflix movies have the best quality. So I'm not really surprised by that. But yeah, when I saw this trailer, I was like, God, Eddie, don't do this to yourself. Don't do this to yourself. And plus, they're gonna play back on nostalgia again, and they're gonna beat you over the head with a couple jokes you've heard before.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. It does not look good.
There you go, another legacy sequel.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the new thing, legacy sequels.
Because Hollywood is unoriginal now.
Yeah.
Except for horror movies. Horror movies, they seem to be a little bit more original than most.
Yes and no. It depends.
I mean, we had that one summer. It was not last summer, but the summer before that, where it was just a horror movie after we had Barbarian and Smile, and you had these movies. I was just like,
there's a bunch of sequels to them coming out too. But they're doing a Smile 2. They're doing a Megan 2.
Yeah.
Friday Nights at Freddy's got a sequel.
Those movies that year, that was like my most. And I'm not the biggest horror film, but that summer they put out some bangers for horror. But I don't know what the hell's going on with their other categories of action, romance, and adventures, and even comic books. I don't know what's going on with the rest of the genres. Like, it's just being so unoriginal.
Just hiring not good writers and forcing productions. It's easier to make a sequel of something that exists than coming up with a whole new idea. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
This segment sponsored by
the people against vegetarians eating plants. Save the grass, eat some ass.
Something original and something where we had good writers. And
I wouldn't exactly call it original.
Well, it wasn't original, but good writers, good stories, good characters, a lot of fleshed out characters more, is X-Men.
Right.
X-Men 97, probably one of the best shows Disney Plus has put out. Better than every show the Disney Plus has put out so far.
It was really great.
It just was. It was better than all the live action shows.
It had action, it had drama, it had
everything,
all kinds of stuff.
It is by far. I cannot wait for this show to come back. I think this show was absolutely balls to the walls, amazing. Cyclops finally gets his due at being a big badass, a leader for once. Wolverine kind of steps aside and doesn't have to take up most of the doggone cartoon.
Yeah, you're right. He more or less was a supporting role. The big story, and we'll bring the spoiler rod in here because this is all spoilers.
Yeah.
This is an on-the-go spoiler alert. You have now been alerted.
The big plot point is it takes place after the original X-Men series, which you don't need to really watch to understand what's going on here. I think, if anything, maybe watch the last episode of the last season, and then if you want, you can watch the rest of the series to see how they get there. But really, you can fill in the blanks yourself. It's not too hard to understand. But essentially, Professor X kind of fakes his death, essentially. All the X-Men fake Professor X's death because he was mortally wounded, and he's got like the space girlfriend that comes down and picks him up and takes him to space. And so on Earth, Professor X is dead. Cyclops inherits the X-Men, or so he thought, and then Magneto shows up, and Magneto says, hold up, Charles Xavier has it in his will that I'm supposed to inherit the X-Men, so now I'm your boss. And obviously they're a little weirded out by it, but Magneto, actually being a noble person, is trying to hold up Professor X's essentially last will and testament, right? He's trying to do good by Professor X by doing it Professor X's way. I think the UN comes after Magneto at some point because in the last series, Magneto, I think it's like the whole Asteroid M situation, I believe. So they come after him for that, and Magneto turns himself in, goes to court, and then they get attacked by this, essentially a racist man. An anti-mutant dude who became the executioner. He's scared of mutants or whatever, and then Magneto scares the crap out of him and the judges and the jury, essentially. And they broker a deal to where they're going to let Genosha, which is an island of mutants, become a part of the UN. That way mutants can have their own space somewhere, and they'll have the resources and all that stuff from the UN. It's a huge plot point. That's not all the plot points, but that's just a good way to describe like kind of half the story, I suppose. Yeah. And in there, you have things where it's like Storm loses her powers because she gets, the Sentinels are still around, and so she gets shot with like a Sentinel ray, and that takes her powers away. So she has to go on a whole journey to rediscover herself, essentially. And she meets up with Forge, and like her and Forge are fighting this like mysterious, I don't know, was it a creature? I don't think it was a mutant. It was like some kind of demon thing.
Yeah, it was like a demon.
It was like the adversary.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, those episodes I wasn't too into.
Me either. I wasn't too into those either.
I wasn't really into like Storm's plot point because I know Storm was gonna get her powers back.
Yep.
And she was gonna return. Now, if she didn't get her powers back, that would have been more surprising and more interesting. However, comic books and superheroes, you kind of know where the story goes sometimes. So I'm like, okay, she's gonna get her powers back. She's gonna show up at the end. I see where this is going. I'm not really interested in that.
Nope.
And then they introduced Sunspot in the series, right? He's like the new mutant around because Jubilee was the new mutant in the original series, and so now you got Sunspot coming in. You got Jubilee trying to hang out with Sunspot, and Sunspot's going through this thing where his parents don't know he's he's not. They don't know he's a mutant, and there's an allegory to what Sunspot goes through and what other people,
other people that are not mutants that go through.
Yeah, people in the real world. Like if you don't want to tell your parents something, or like your parents are holding you to a certain set of standards and whatever, and maybe you don't go that way. Well, Sunspot's story is for you because it's essentially it's him trying to deal with that, and like Jubilee is trying to help him through it, and there's drama there. Cyclops' story with Jean Grey.
Great. I love this story.
Biggest plot point of the show, honestly, that just has beats throughout the whole thing. Yep. I think it's like, episode 3? Episode 3, you find out that the Jean Grey that Cyclops had a baby with at the beginning of the series, because it starts off with Jean Grey pregnant, and I think at the end of the first episode, she has a baby, who was baby Cable, baby Nate Summers, right? So come to find out, at some point, she got kidnapped by Mr. Sinister, cloned, and replaced.
Yep.
And the Jean Grey that you see at the beginning of the season is not the real Jean Grey. She's the clone. Mr. Sinister like activates her brainwashing, essentially, and she becomes the Goblin Queen, which is funny because I've seen a lot of people talk about on the internet how people were complaining about Rogue. Like, Rogue's ass isn't as round or whatever, and like, oh, they took Rogue's sexiness away, and everyone's like, yeah, you don't hear them talking about the Goblin Queen episode, do you? Like, she's
Yeah, it was a pretty crazy episode.
Hot goth chick.
Yep.
You're not gonna bring her up. And like,
it was definitely more risky episodes than we ever seen.
No, but it's funny because they're like, yeah, you realize that people shut up when they actually watch the show.
As usual.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, so she becomes a Goblin Queen, X-Men go to stop her and whatnot, and then you have the reveal that Madeline, or they call her Madeline, which actually was the original name of Jean Grey, I think, or maybe not. I might be getting it confused, but anyway, so now you have Jean Grey, now you have Madeline Pryor, and there's this whole weird like throuple thing going on, or like Scott feels conflicted, right? Because obviously he married Jean Grey, but he had a baby with this other woman who's also essentially Jean Grey, right? So it's really weird. Scott's trying to figure it out, and then Madeline decides to leave. And I think a little bit before that, they ended up having to send baby Cable into the future because Mr. Sinister kidnapped the baby and infected him with the techno-organic virus that makes him Cable. You get that moment on screen for the first time.
Which is pretty cool.
It was cool. And then also it kind of brings things full circle because they've met Cable before. And now it's like, oh, that's our son.
Yep.
Which I don't know if in the original series they knew that was his son.
No, I don't think so.
Right.
I don't think so.
So I in this series you get that reveal to Scott and Jean that like, oh, our son is Cable. Because he pops up later in the series too.
Yep.
And then there's Genosha. There's a whole episode where Genosha gets basically genocided. I mean, stop me where you want. I'm just trying to like, go through the coolest moments of the show, you know?
Well, that's where the show picks up. That's what I want to say. That like the Genosha stuff, all the way on from there, that's where the show becomes by far Emmy Award winning stuff.
Yeah.
And the whole Genosha, Gambit sacrificing himself.
Yeah.
Like that's where the show wins everything.
Yeah.
And I thoroughly enjoyed that.
And well, even like the reveal of the main villain, right? You have Bastion, who was infected by some sort of Sentinel programming. He basically became a human Sentinel. And then his whole plan, was cool. Right? And his whole plan was to eradicate mutants. Which it's funny because you realize his plan is also hypocritical, right? Because what he does is he mutates people and makes them into Sentinels. He basically like puts them through like some sort of programming and turns them into Sentinels themselves. And it's like, okay, so you're so scared of mutants that in order to kill mutants, you mutilate and transform your body to kill them off. It was like you're becoming a mutant yourself. It's not the same way, but like you become what you hate to destroy it.
Yeah, because you know what? I've seen this. I forgot what superhero that was, but that's a superhero that had that same thing. I don't know who it was. I couldn't tell you. It's gonna probably remind me. It'll probably come to me after this podcast. But yeah, no, that was totally hypocritical of him. But it's usually how it is. Villains are hypocritical,
right? But I thought that was a nice touch because
it was a good touch. I loved it.
Because I mean, that dude was evil, and then he made his whole mom a Sentinel. He made his whole hometown a Sentinel.
Then he upgraded himself. I was like,
he upgraded himself, and at some point, I think like the X-Men are kind of fighting within each other because Professor X shows back. He comes back to Earth, and then he decides he's going to help out or whatever, and like him and Magneto kind of have a disagreement because now at this point, after Genosha got genocided, Magneto's like, all right, screw humanity. Like I tried it your way, Professor X, but it's my way now.
He had a point.
He did. They made Magneto look like he was right, and something to be said. But so there's like some squabbling with the X-Men because at some point they kind of like split up into two groups. Like some group goes with Magneto, another group stays with Professor X, which is
Rogue and Nightcrawler.
Which I'm thinking like I get like there's a agreement here, but there's bigger fish to fry.
Yeah,
like let's fight Bastion first and not do the Zen fighting. But I understand like plot points and drama. You got to have it. I don't know, man. The show was just great. Like all the episodes were great and good and well written, and the animation. It's certainly very different from the original animation.
Way different.
But it looks good. It's very colorful, very action packed. Each episode was great. There's an episode where like Jubilee and Sunspot are kidnapped by Mojo and they're in the Mojo verse and stuff, which that was cool. I always thought Mojo was an interesting villain. I always thought he was kind of cool.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of him. That was between that one and the Storm episode, the Storm stuff. I just did not care for.
Yeah,
I never cared for Mojo. I did like a couple of the Easter eggs they threw in there for Mojo, but that was about it. Yeah. I think when we first talked about this show, I think I said I didn't too much care for the animation because I was so used to the old school animation. Right. So when I had to get used to the animation of this one, I didn't like how everyone was talking because it felt like an opera, because everything was so dramatic.
Yeah.
But like I said, as the show went on, I kind of got used to it, and like I said, the Genosha stuff was where it all picked up at.
Yeah.
And it had a lot of drama, a lot of adult stuff that you can tell they want to do a lot of stuff they couldn't do on Fox.
Yeah. No, I mean, I loved it all. I thought it was a great show, and then and in the aftermath of it, of course, now they're talking about like, oh, let's revive the Spider-Man show, or let's revive this and all and that and stuff. And
I don't know about that.
I don't necessarily agree with it because
me either. I don't agree with that.
And Spider-Man, the animated series, the way it ends off, it ends at a cliffhanger, similar to how the X-Men ended. So I get where they're coming from, but just because it worked out for this X-Men show doesn't necessarily mean it would work out for the Spider-Man show. Or like if you try to bring back the Avengers animated series or the Fantastic Four animated series, like what you got to draw a line somewhere. Otherwise, you're going to end up like the rest of the MCU the way it is. You have a good series, just keep it at that. Not to say that they can't do another show. It's just I think they really got to put some actual thought into it versus like, oh, this was great, let's do another one. Well, let's do another thing.
Well, I think for most people, like if after watching X-Men 97, everyone's hoping now that we can finally get a better X-Men movie. You have a template on how you need to do the X-Men. Right. Like, do that.
Right. Well, I mean, they're fast tracking the X-Men movie.
Yeah, they're actually fast tracking it right now. Yeah. It's in development, and it really is happening now. Yeah. So it's just like, do what you did with X-Men 1997. You see what you did. The stories that you can do. The actors. Actors always come full circle, always come around. But the characters. One thing about those X-Men movies back in the day, it was always Wolverine-centric. Yeah. All those movies are all Wolverine-centric. And at some point, it was good. It was okay. Yeah. I had no problem with that. But a lot of the characters never got their shine. Yeah. So if you've never been introduced to the X-Men with the animated series or the comics, you always thought that it was Wolverine and the X-Men. Yeah. But,
there's a whole Wolverine and the X-Men show.
Yeah, which it was. And it didn't do good. It only lasted one season. Yeah.
Because I think it was supposed to be like a weird sequel series to X-Men Evolution.
I think it was, yeah.
But it didn't, nothing, it didn't really align right.
Never.
So it was just kind of weird because X-Men Evolution was great. And then Wolverine and the X-Men comes out and it's like the animation's not as good. But it's sort of connected, but not really. I don't know.
Did you ever watch it?
I tried. Yeah. I didn't really care for it too much.
I tried too. I was like, it's okay. I'd rather watch X-Men Evolution.
Yeah, X-Men Evolution was great. Yeah. That was a great way to introduce a new generation to the X-Men. It's a little confusing because
it made Cyclops
the way it was set up. Yeah.
Jean Grey young. Yeah. Wolverine was like the leader.
But I do like that version of the X-Men. I think that would be cool to see.
I liked it.
As a live action thing. Like that would... Yeah, do a X-Men Evolution where like the Brotherhood and the X-Men are going to class together. I don't know. That's the thing that I kind of missed in this show was there wasn't as many like Brotherhood mutants. Yeah, and they were kind of there, but they were there in a cameo with Morph because Morph, he's like Mystique. He just transforms into characters. So they would use him to like cameo different characters where they could. Yeah, I don't think he didn't turn into Deadpool in this one, but in the original series,
he did.
But he was like Magic. He was, I think he turned into Archangel at one point. He turned into the Hulk. He turned into like a bunch of other characters.
Which I'm pretty sure that like the second season, that's another thing I like about this show. They didn't want to overstuff you with too much. Yeah. So the next season, you'll get a chance to see all the X-Men and all the mutants that you want to see.
The next season is kind of what I'm worried about. Because at the end of the season, they do an end credit scene where... somehow, some way, the X-Men get scattered across time. You have some in the future, you have some in the past, and in that, we get the reveal of Apocalypse. Yep. Right. So in the past, like you're in the Egyptian past or whatever, you have a team of X-Men. I think Professor X and Beast and some other people. They meet in Savanur, and then in the future, I think like Scott and Jean Grey get sent off into the future, and they run into like a teenage Cable, right? That plot point's interesting. I'm not really interested in seeing Apocalypse again because we've had him in the original animated series, and we just had him in the movie a couple years ago. And I don't know, he's always the big bad, right? They always bring it back to him. But I think in terms of continuity from the original series, like you've already done Apocalypse.
So technically, he never died.
Right.
They just boom, kind of boot him off.
Right. I think he reincarnated himself in like some other dude's body, apparently in the animated series and possibly the comics. But I don't know, because this first season was so grounded and like the story was huge, but it was kind of small in a way. You know what I mean?
It was.
And so now you're gonna bring in Apocalypse, and now you're gonna do like the separate timeline stuff. You're gonna have to jump between the past and the present and the future, because they also showed like present day Apocalypse, like at Genosha, talking about how his children were murdered, and he's gonna get retribution or for him or whatever. And so I don't know. It's just going the Apocalypse storyline isn't as interesting to me as it was before.
Well, I mean, if they keep the same writers, which I'm pretty sure they will, I have faith that they can put together a good product.
Now, they don't have the same showrunner.
Yeah, they don't have the same showrunner.
It will be a different showrunner, so that also kind of factors into it. So we'll see. All in all, great show.
Yeah,
Enjoyed it.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm sorry, Disney Plus, but this is the best material. Sorry, Marvel too. It's the best, better than all the MCU shows. I'm stamping it and booking it.
Yeah, I mean, it knocked it out of the park with this one. So
yeah,
hopefully season 2 will be just as good.
I'm pretty sure it will.
My interest in Apocalypse is low, but also I might watch that first episode of the second season and be like, okay, I'm in.
Anytime you can get a grown adults that don't even watch comic books to watch X-Men 97, and they probably never even watched X-Men back in the day, that's when you know you're doing something good.
Right.
That's when you know you're doing something good.
Right. Certainly better than that Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man cartoon they're working on. You don't remember that?
So about the one that was on MTV?
No, the new one coming out. So I think it was right around after No Way Home came out. They announced that they were going to do a Spider-Man animated series on Disney Plus called Spider-Man Freshman Year.
Oh, okay. I think I remember that, yeah.
Everyone thought it was going to be that freshman year for Peter as he's first getting his powers before he meets Tony. Turns out, alternate timeline, it's going to be like they're going to have Norman Osborn, they're going to do Dr. Octopus, they're going to do all that. They announced that years ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
But now they changed the name to Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and it's still coming out, but it's still like it's funny because I think the showrunner or somebody behind it was like, yeah, we're going to do something different with Spider-Man. He's going to be back in high school and blah, blah, like he's going to be broke and he's only going to have his aunt and all this stuff. And everyone was just like, so like a Spider-Man story.
Yeah,
basically
a Spider-Man story.
The way the guy tried to make it sound was like it was like this new thing, but it's like, no, dude, like you just did this with the Spider-Man home trilogy. Jesus Christ. Every time we see a new version of Spider-Man, you put him back in high school. Like, how about put him in college? How about he's been Spider-Man for 10 or so years? And let him be Spider-Man.
That's how it
also,
should be.
Stop trying to throw Miles Morales and Spider-Gwen into the mix.
Because they're going to keep doing this with Miles Morales.
Yeah.
I want to see him by himself. I don't want to see him teaming up with Peter Parker.
Right. Show him in his own universe, because that's how it was. He was in his own universe with Spider-Man died before he became Spider-Man. So stop giving us Miles and Spider-Gwen. They just did that in the comics. They just added Spider-Gwen to the main 616 continuity. So, and a lot of people are already getting tired of like the spider people.
I've been tired of it.
Yeah.
I've been tired of it.
Someone suggested so there was a comic line called the Exiles. That's what it was. It was a comic book title called The Exiles. And the whole idea behind The Exiles was, I think it was like the Watcher or somebody. Basically, he gathered together like 5 or 6 people from different universes. So you would have maybe like Wolverine from the Ultimate Universe and like Johnny Storm from the Nowhere Universe, and like, it's just different timelines, different universes, and they would make them like a team, and basically they would have to go and fix things in the multiverse, right? And so someone suggested like, if you want to keep doing, if you want to do a story with like Spider-Man and Miles Morales and Spider-Gwen and stuff, keep them on separate universes, but do like that. Make it like Exiles, but with like spider characters. So then you have a team of spider characters who were tasked with doing whatever. And then when you're done with them, you can just drop them off in their respective universes and have them continue their storylines there or whatever. So that was a suggestion. I thought it was a cool suggestion. And I want to go back to the X-Men cartoon real quick, because there was a plot point that I wanted to talk about that I thought was really cool. And they did kind of drop it real quick. It was towards the end of the series. And it's a scene where Magneto rips the adamantium out of Wolverine.
Yeah, I remember that. And that's because we didn't see any more Wolverine after that.
You didn't see Wolverine. He was like on a table in oxygen mask. Like, he was alive. But then that also is kind of why I was upset with the Apocalypse thing, because you don't see Wolverine after that.
Nope.
And then everyone's scattered across timelines. And then it's just like, well, what happened to Wolverine?
Which I'm pretty sure they'll explain.
They will. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, because I have that issue. I have that issue of X-Men where it's like a 3-issue series, but I have the second issue where it's just after Magneto rips the adamantium out of a skeleton. And that issue is just intense the whole time, because it's the X-Men are on the Blackbird. They're flying away. I think Professor X is flying, or someone is flying. But anyway, Wolverine is having a whole, like, he's going through it. He's going through shock, and his mind is messed up because, like, all the pain. And so Jean Grey and Professor X are, like, in his head trying to keep him stable, because his brain's breaking. So the whole time, like, they're in his head, they're trying to keep him stable, and, like, I think the Blackbird's flying through an asteroid field or whatever. It's action, all kinds of stuff. And at the end of the issue, they calm him down. They make it back to the X-Mansion, and then it's like a couple weeks later. So Wolverine's kind of healed up enough to, like, wake up and talk to the X-Men or whatever. And he comes out, and they're like, "Well, how do you feel?" And blah blah blah. And he goes to pop his claws, and this is where they revealed that it's bone.
Yeah, it's all bone.
Like, this is the issue where basically the reader and the X-Men find out that Wolverine, the claws weren't like always there. It's bone claws. So
that's kind of what they did in Wolverine Origins.
You're right. And it was a cool scene in the show, and I just wonder, like, how they're gonna adapt that in the
I'm pretty sure that they'll take some elements of it, because they've been taking elements. One thing about the show, they took elements from every piece of the comic book, so they'll probably introduce that again. But yeah, Wolverine Origins did the same thing.
Yeah, you're right. But with the X-Men 97, with the X-Men 97, that's the first time. This is the first time we're seeing that scene where he's getting it ripped out of him. Mm-hmm. That's an intense scene. I mean,
it was a great scene. I loved it. Yeah,
and I thought it was great. I thought it was a great homage to that issue, because I have that issue, and I always thought that was a cool, like, issue to have. Just like, oh crap, like, you open it up and the first scene is like Wolverine freaking out, and it's a good story.
But yeah, no, I think they're gonna probably take elements from each piece of the comic book, because they're gonna need Wolverine to fight Apocalypse, obviously.
Yeah, or he might become a Horseman.
True, that would be dope. Yeah. Wouldn't mind that, something different.
So, but that's it. That's all we got.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the end of our episode. That's our big X-Men 97 review. It was great. How far are you on Fallout?
I haven't finished it.
You need to finish it. I'm almost done with it. We got to do an episode on Fallout, because Fallout's really good too.
Yeah, I'll probably finish it sometime this week. Yeah,
so hopefully the next couple episodes we'll hit up Fallout. If you wanna email us, you can email us at onthegopod2023@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram. It's on the go with Jacob and James. It's all one word. You can find James on Instagram at
James9794.
You can find me on Instagram at jacobdanson.audio. You can also find us on YouTube. It's On The Go with Jacob and James. Feel free to subscribe, like, share, follow, hit the bell, do all the things you need to do to keep us around. And without further ado, I'm on the go, James is on the go, we're on the go. Bye.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please follow and share the podcast with your friends and family units. If by chance you disliked the episode, then please share the On The Go show with your most hated enemies. Thank you and enjoy your day.